We are back with part 2 of our favorite of 2014 wrap up, our top 10. We just narrowed the list down to 20. I think all we removed is like 9 of them.
No, it was an impressive amount of strike through.
Was it? Okay.
It's just as we got towards the top, it got less and less strike through because the television got better and better. What do you want?
Sure.
What do you want from me?
Yeah, you list
I'm
the ones
just a
that
man.
made the most impression on you first. So
I'm actually super impressed that we got to a agreed upon top 20, and
the top 10 is where it's really tough, where you start to have to make cuts that you care about.
yeah. So
That's brutal.
My suggestion is, and you'll probably hate, judging by how this is going.
I hate it. I already hate it.
We start at the top, and we then say the next one, is it better or worse? And we do that all the way through, and then we just keep that iterative process until we no longer make changes.
Let's try it.
Or you could go
If
from
it
the
doesn't
bottom.
work-
You go from the bottom top too, but I think that would be an interesting exercise. So, are we going to start from the? Yeah, let's do the top to bottom.
Sure.
Is
True
Fargo
Detective.
better than True Detective, in your opinion? To me, no, but it's not. It's not as easy as I'm making it out because I've been thinking about this for the last week or two.
Yeah, it's tough because they're so different, right? Fargo is a quirky comedy.
And the degree of difficulty of
at its
adapting a
core.
Coen Brothers feel
Yeah,
and atmosphere and style
it's impressively done.
that has none of their involvement. And Malvo is such a terrific character.
And when you combine that with the fact that I didn't like True Detective's first few episodes
Sure.
when I watched it, and it really took that 4th episode to hook me. And even then, like the 4th episode, I said, wow, this is impressive what they've done here. But I think it was the 5th episode that really hooked me. The one where they get in the fight and he busts out his taillight and you got the shot of him driving down the road later on. That's the episode that really hooked me. So it took me a while to get into it, whereas Fargo, I was on board from the beginning.
See, I thought True Detective was amazing. I still don't understand why people don't think it's funnier than it is. The first 2 or 3 episodes are just, I find Russ Cole and
Maybe people do. I don't. Like,
their verbal interplay is
Yeah.
hilarious.
and I think it's meant to be, but it's so understated too. It's like, at least I think it is. You seem to think it's overt and just in your
I
face.
do. Like Matthew McConaughey in his burnt out hippie disillusion mode and his spaced out, just got off of these in-depth, drugged undercover operations. In both of them, it just seems like the difference between Russ Cole in True Detective and Matthew McConaughey pitching Lincolns or whatever the hell he's pitching, not a huge difference to me. And people get the comedy
Okay.
of the Osiris and all that stuff. It's the same, essentially the same character. So I thought I was laughing and giggling the whole time. And I think True Detective was a tour de force of directing and writing, and
There's nothing about the show that made me feel good.
I
And I'm not saying that
find that
feeling
I
good,
can't argue with you.
And it wasn't particularly entertaining, right? I mean, if you're coming from those perspectives, like Breaking Bad.
Can
Breaking
you tell
Bad.
in that little window? Can you see how far my eyes just bulged out when he said it wasn't entertaining? Because like my glasses actually like jumped, my eyeballs hit them.
I don't think it's entertaining. I think it is introspective. I think it is complex. I think it is nuanced. I do not think it is very entertaining just on the face of it. Unlike a Breaking Bad. Unlike a Fargo, which is just straight up entertaining for the most part. Now, Fargo goes farther than just being entertaining.
Sure, Fargo is entertaining, but
But that's something that I find True Detective almost completely lacking.
So this is something we talked about before. I find intellectual exercises pleasurable and entertaining
Yeah.
in almost the same way that a well choreographed fight scene is. To me, the pleasure center in my brain can't tell Fast and Furious 5 from, I mean, obviously one's better than the other, but I'm saying like what the entertainment aspect of it
Yeah.
is kind of the same. Like something Gonzo like Cranked 2 is similar to me as the episode 4 of True Detective, the climax of the 6-minute tracking shot.
They're like, I look at that as like they are equally well made, but they're very different things.
Yeah.
And that's the crux of this True Detective / Fargo.
Incidentally, that's one of the reasons
debate.
I got really hot to see Birdman in last week, because I was listening to Bill Simmons talk to, was it Klosterman or was it? No, it was Chuck.
Yeager.
Yeah, it was Chuck Klosterman. Talking about their top movie picks, and Bill Simmons mentioned that the Birdman was essentially 6 tracking shots, long tracking shots.
That sounds fascinating.
And I'm like, God, I mean, I love stuff like that. That degree of difficulty is very, very tough to nail. Like, actors have to know their shit. You got to know your marks. You have to have the camera choreographed. You have to do, like, really long takes like that are showy for a reason, because they're hard to pull off.
And True Detective has one of the best.
One of the best.
I mean, they tried to do it.
And it wasn't even showy. It was the scene. The scene would not work the same. It wouldn't have the same impact. It wouldn't have the same tension.
It felt very matter of fact. Like, here are events transpiring. We're just watching them.
Yeah. In fact, I think I was 2 minutes into it before I'm like, oh shit, there's not been a single cut.
Uh-huh.
Like, I think it's when they went through a house and then to another house where I'm like, oh fuck, this is just, they're going for it.
Yeah, and we talked about this in the Game of Thrones podcast.
Where they
try to do the same thing up on the wall, and we just weren't that impressed with it.
And
honestly,
I don't know
if it's because we had seen True Detective
and there was
first.
no way they could have known that. Like, they were all, it's like you show up with your brand new Honda, and you think your family's going to be impressed, and your neighbor just that day happened to buy a Lamborghini.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not like your Honda's shit, but it ain't a Lambo.
No, and that's probably too wide of a gap, right? I don't think the Game of Thrones thing was bad.
No.
It was fantastic, but just not as fantastic.
And also wasn't the hands down best episode of the season either.
Yeah.
Watchers on a Wall was a little bit, not a disappointment. It's, I don't know.
No,
I'd
it
have
just
to
didn't quite hit the notes I wanted it to.
Well, I mean, season 4 of Game of Thrones was essentially 3 or 4 seasons worth of oh shit moments packed into one season.
Yeah.
And it just happened to be that we're used to the 9th episode being the biggest and baddest of them all, and it wasn't.
Now I'm kind of thinking we're talking about True Detective versus Game of Thrones, but as far as Fargo goes, it's very different. It's very different. It's more entertaining to me.
But is it better than True Detective?
True Detective ends so well.
And that's the thing. Like, I was one of the ones that was entirely pleased with the way it ended. I
was too.
I would thought that I would be disappointed that one of them didn't die, but it was completely redeemed by
one of them almost did.
Yeah, and like I said, Russ Cole's "The light is winning" is an amazing line, an amazing way to end the show.
Yeah, it doesn't say that he's changed his philosophy much, other than
his point of view.
Yeah, he's looking at it from a different angle, and I think that's kind of the way
Obi-Wan
I wanted
Kenobi'd himself.
All right. Yeah, I that's an okay ending for that character. It's a great ending for that character.
Okay.
I want to talk a little bit about the great stuff that Fargo did. Fargo's characters are fantastic.
Sure.
Almost top to bottom.
Lester,
fucking Lorne Malvo is an incredible character. The actors both are awesome. Molly and Gus's relationship is fantastic throughout that series. Like, that surprised me in how well it competed with kind of the main plot.
Right.
And both of those actors,
even Numbers and Wrench, great characters.
Yeah, great characters. And that's the thing that you really want to see in a Coen Brothers thing, right? And great, rememberable characters.
Bone-chilling things. Like, I still, that one of the scenes that sticks with you the most through the year is that guy slipping through the ice head first, fully conscious.
Yes.
That's just really a disturbing scene.
For sure.
And in a show that's kind of full of them. Like, I still remember the horror of the triple realization of what we thought Lester was doing with his wife, sitting with what was really happening, with then what he, it's like there was like a 3 levels of realization of, oh God, you're such a fucking bastard.
Yeah.
And then him tugging on Superman's cape, which is wanting to talk about the Lorne deal in the elevator with them and how crazy that manhunt ended up being. And
it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's really, really good. And I'm not saying it's not. It's just not as good as True Detective for me.
Okay, I'm-
the fish for if nothing else, the fish NATO.
Yeah, there was no Fishnado in True Detective.
And in fact, the whole in retrospect, when I rewatched this season, I feel like the whole King of Pork or whatever the hell the supermarket king is going to be a little bit Raylan and Winona trying to get the cash back into the evidence room of season 2. Like it's season 2 of Justified is awesome,
except
but that
for that.
2-episode stretch doesn't have anything to do with anything else. And the supermarket king was just a lark to keep Malvo busy for a couple days that culminated into Fishnado, which was hands down the worst part of the season for me. And it's kind of amazing. I like it as much as I do, honestly, because I was not feeling the greatest about the show at that point. But then the last half act, or the last half, was just amazing. When it became again about Lester and Malvo and Molly and
the way that Lorne goes out with Gus killing him, I
Sure.
thought was perfect.
yeah,
Perfect. I think that's what that character needed.
Molly's dad was awesome.
Yeah.
Gus's kid, I can't remember her name. She was awesome. His neighbor. I mean, there's so many unforgettable characters, which I've forgotten their names. So, but they all had their little moments to shine.
They did, and that's
Even Officer Bob, what a fish porn guy. Such a great character.
it's very different from True Detective, which focuses very closely on these two people.
Sure.
I
Unless you're arguing that Fargo should be better than True Detective, we should move on.
I'm not super comfortable with True Detective. Like, I enjoyed Fargo more.
So you think it should be above True Detective?
I do.
Jesus Christ. Already with this guy. Okay.
I think True Detective is great. I think.
So how do we resolve this conflict?
I think we move on for now.
Okay.
We leave those where they are. Say we'll come back to those.
Is Mad Men better than True Detective or Fargo? I would argue it's better
No.
than Fargo. God damn it.
I don't think.
God damn it,
I don't
Jim.
think Mad Men. This particular season of Mad Men was better than either of those.
Wow. Well,
Maybe you can convince me. Maybe I don't remember Mad Men well enough.
that's the problem. Is Mad Men's kind of running together because I was about to say, really, the Hershey's exec speech, but that was the season before.
Yeah. This is the one that ended with him showing Sally the old house that he grew up in, right?
No, that was last season.
That was even last season. Yeah. See, let's go here. IMDb is going to be our friend here.
There we go.
Season 6.
This ended with Don doing the Hail Mary to get his job back. But
That's
then
right.
at the end, we're not really sure if it worked, and Bert tap dances his way to heaven, which was a fantastic end of the season.
This is the season where Don was cheating on Megan with the doctor's wife, Sylvia.
No.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't.
Unless, are we in season 7?
Yes. That too was the season, the
Jesus.
previous season.
Yeah, so much has happened here. Okay. Waterloo. Day's work, time zones. So did you really like the storyline with Don being ousted and Don trying to get one over on these guys?
I felt like
How much did you like that?
I felt like it was legitimate growth to the Don Draper character. Him kind of letting Megan go and them realizing their marriage is over, and him and Peggy having their kind of like maudlin moments. Him and his daughter reconciling over whatever restaurant they were. I want to say Hojo's, but I know it wasn't. And him joking about stiffing her with the check, and I think I'd put Mad Men over Fargo, sure. Fargo had a fairly serious 2 or 3 episode misstep in quality for me. True Detective nor Mad Men had that, so I would want to put it over.
Yeah, I'm struggling to come up with a misstep in this season. Looking through the IMDb list here of episodes. The Monolith is an episode that I really remember well and thought they had a great theme.
pepperoni nipple?
For that episode. Yeah. What about Ginsburg? What about Ginsburg? You didn't have a problem with Ginsburg
No.
totally going off the rails?
Because I thought they really did a very good job of showing him as a unstable character that had the right stresses put on him that something like that could happen. They had, fat Mark Ruffalo, Mark Ruffalo's fat cousin, Mark Buffalo.
Sure. They had some good stuff with Stan and Peggy.
Peggy and the little boy, Julio, was it?
From her building.
Their relationship. I really dug last season.
Stuff. Yeah, you might be right. See, I was remembering last season as the season with Sylvia,
which was kind of
was worse than
it's
season
kind of
7.
a jog and play season until the very end.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
The
All
Roses episode where Peggy thought Teddy Chaga gave her the roses and she really stole her secretary's roses, and no, I thought there was a lot of funny stuff in it. I put Mad Men over Fargo.
I might have to. Yeah, man, those 2 episodes. It's a shame that Fargo had kind of a misstep in the middle. Just it's the smallest misstep. It's like we're judging the figure skating competition, and you get a 9.8 instead of 9.9.
Yeah, the plagues just didn't quite work for me. That whole thing.
Well,
I really like the connection to the
worked.
cash in Fargo. That's that.
I thought the plagues worked insofar as they were created by Lorne. When you get to the Fishnado stuff, that's where the plague started to lose me, right? Because he knew he was preying on this guy's sense of, his biblical.
Plus, Lorne didn't even
nature.
care at that point, and I still don't understand what the fuck he was trying to do because he didn't bother to get the cash. Like he was just fucking around with these people, which
we saw previously in the season. That's what he kind of does.
Clearly, he's not driven by the money because he will flush a giant hit down the drain just to fuck with Lester for a bit.
Yeah, and he'll tell somebody that a kid set the car on fire when or he'll tell a kid go set the car on fire.
Yeah.
He clearly likes to fuck with people. That's
the
just
best
in
part of that
his character.
sequence is him just completely fucking Dennis from Always Sunny over, and then using him as a human. I don't know what you'd call that. Target,
pretty much.
Bullet magnet, bullet sponge. That was another disturbing scene.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I mean, to me, Mad Men's better than Fargo. So what do you think?
See, since True Detective and Mad Men are so similar, in their serious tone, I feel like Mad Men last season is not quite as good as True Detective.
I agree with you there.
But Fargo is just a different beast. It's so hard to judge these things when they're not the same like tone or the same type of show.
Yeah, it's just your personal enjoyment. Maybe we need to have 2 separate lists of Jim and Aaron. I don't know.
Nope. This has got to be a bald move.
All right.
Favorite of 2014. Okay. Throw Mad Men above Fargo.
Above Fargo?
Yeah. I will say I did not have as much pure enjoyment watching Mad Men, but I think it is a better show. It is better constructed, and part of that comes from just the history of these characters. Like it's hard for a season 1 show to impress me as much as the 6 seasons before Mad Men.
But that's something the Fargo and True Detective are all going to have to dwell. I mean, they're going to have to bring it every fucking season to compete with the likes of the Mad Men's and Game of Thrones and all the left.
Oh yeah. Sure.
Game of Thrones, speaking of, is it better than Fargo?
Now that's a show that definitely has some entertainment value. Holy shit.
Sure.
And when you get into the Oberyn stuff from last season, and you get into like the stuff with Tyrion and his dad, I mean,
the ascendancy of Littlefinger,
Jesus,
the realization of how much Peter Baelish, like how much of everything that's happened as you could lay at his.
It's definitely better than Fargo. Definitely better than Fargo, in my opinion.
Okay.
I mean, if you take the Laws of God and Man alone,
yeah,
like the laws of God and men, the mountain and the viper, the children, the finale
Yeah.
with the Hound and Arya and
Oh my God.
Brianna. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Or Brienne. Yeah. That's
And the second
a tour de
episode, the Arya and
force.
Hound Roadshow, the Los Polos Margulis.
Uh-huh.
That was
All the
fucking
chickens.
phenomenal.
Yeah.
That was so much, so many great episodes last season. Again, I definitely think it's above Fargo.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is it better than Mad Men?
Yes. Because in my mind, it was more entertaining.
Okay.
and not just a little more entertaining like Fargo, phenomenally entertaining.
Okay. Is it better than True Detective? I'll
See, that's where.
go along with you on the Mad Men. I have mixed feelings, but
All right. Well, we can take another pass if we need it.
Okay.
But my gut feeling says. No.
Okay. I'm a resounding no. So
Because True Detective is so different
Yeah.
from anything on television, I think. Like, it has a similar tone, like in its how somber it is compared to Mad Men, but
and also I'm really
it's just
not
questioning things that are not even talked about on TV.
I still don't like Jamie being the queen raper. I really have a problem with, and
Yeah,
the jury's
you're
very
right.
much out on how that affects his character going forward. But I'm scared.
And you know what?
I have a lot of I can't wait for the preview cast because I've got a lot of nervousness and misgivings and just general fear for the next few seasons of Game of Thrones.
Sure. And I think there were things in. I mean, we didn't talk about kind of the bad things in Game of Thrones. There were a couple of them. I didn't like what they did with Daenerys this season. I thought her plot slowed way down.
Well,
Way
that's
down.
mildly interesting.
Especially toward the end.
Okay.
I mean, she's doing some interesting things. She's trying to figure out how to be a leader and how to like free all these slaves and have them
But
fight
then
for her.
How do you effectively govern?
Sure.
It's easy. It's easy to take over a city. It's really hard to govern them.
Yeah. They just slowed that plot down so much because she's now kind of stuck in that one city without a real army. Like she has a small army, and I guess she's got some boats now. Is that right?
Also, what do you think about?
Thanks to the hand.
Not really thrilled with Dario either. What did you think about the fact?
Yeah.
One of the big questions I have is how many memorable villains we've lost. Joffrey, Tywin, the Hound.
Yeah, holy fuck. I forgot Joffrey's death happened last season too.
I mean,
Incredible.
King's Landing, Littlefinger is on the lam. Varys took off. Tyrion took off. King's Landing has not got a lot of interesting characters skulking around anymore.
No, that's true. Yeah. Which is scary for next season, but the stuff they did this season was fantastic.
Sure. Well, anyway, that's a preview cast conversation.
Yeah.
So let's move on.
I forgot about the Joffrey stuff.
Let's move on to Boardwalk Empire. Oh, so you want to put it above True Detective?
God damn it. It saw one of the most despicable, vile characters ever on television.
If you're
in
in
my
a toss
opinion.
up, then I'd say I don't want to. So take that for what you will.
But why? Why? What is the flaw in Game of Thrones, or the just supremely amazing thing about True Detective that makes it number
think
one?
The truly amazing thing in True Detective was that it was a story that told basically a single case that was 8 episodes, and I felt like it was what The Killing wanted to be.
Okay.
And I cared about these characters, even though we found out like it started out we were more sympathized with what was Woody Harrelson's character, Marty.
Yeah, Marty.
So
something.
we got Rust and Marty, and we kind of more sympathetic to Marty at first, and then we kind of got more sympathetic to Rust, and they're like both these guys have the kind of despicable things about them.
Yeah, sure.
You had the relationship with Marty and his wife, and how problematic that was, and his daughters. It just the way that they balance perfectly the relationships between the two men, their interpersonal relationships, the interest of the case, the spanning of the decade. I don't know. I've never seen anything quite like True Detective. Whereas Game of Thrones has
agree with
always
that.
handicapped me somewhat, is that I've read the book, so the chief pleasure of Game of Thrones is seeing how well they execute on my expectations for the book. Where True Detective, I'm like, it was. I mean, the other thing that by far my biggest podcast regret is we did not jump on that in episode 1, because the community around that, where everyone's analyzing and trying to figure out what everything means and what the drawings on the walls mean, and what and people reading the Yellow King, and Amazon's giving it away for free, and like this thing just became larger than itself. And to the extent that it disappointed people, I think it's because it couldn't live up to the story that they thought it was telling.
Sure, the serial effect.
To me, The Leftovers came close, but nothing else kind of like set people's brains on fire like the True Detective fandom, and I was in the thick of it.
You're right, but the Game of Thrones stuff doesn't have that opportunity, right?
Right. So like I kind of want to recuse myself, but I have a clear preference for True Detective over Game of Thrones.
Yeah, see, I don't. Like, I view True Detective as a very dry, like, it's like a thesis, like a television version of a thesis, right? It doesn't have a lot of flourish to
I
it.
totally disagree that it's
It's
dry.
informational. It's like they create a hell of a world, but that world is dark. That world is it's interesting in a way that kind of makes my skin crawl. Whereas the Game of Thrones universe is interesting in a way that kind of invigorates me.
Okay.
Like, look at all this political intrigue going on. Look at all the twists and turns in this. And True Detective kind of lacked that.
It's certainly more badass, and I think you have a slight badass entertainment bias,
I do.
or just
yeah.
an over entertainment bias.
I mean, I like to be challenged and think about stuff, but at the same time, I also want to be entertained. Like, that's primarily why I watch TV.
So can we? You're not sure if it should be one. Can we just kind of set it for now?
Sure.
Boardwalk Empire, is it better than Fargo?
Hell no.
Okay. Is The Leftovers better than Boardwalk Empire?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. Is it better than Fargo? I say yes.
God damn it, because this is another really just very different show.
I think The Leftovers is better than Mad Men.
Man, The Leftovers was good.
The Leftovers made me feel things that
Yes.
and really nailed emotional cues, and the finale paid off in such a great way. And after I read the source material, I was even more impressed that they were able to distill that in an even more effective way, in a better way.
Yeah, I am scared about the future of it, but that says
Same
nothing
here.
about season 1.
Right. But I thought Carrie Coon was amazing. I thought Doctor Who was amazing.
Yeah, there were so many good episodes in that.
Again, that Louis Theroux, or whatever the hell his name is,
Justin
Theroux, had no idea. He was not on my radar at all, and he just crushed it.
Yeah, I can't say enough about Carrie Coon in this series. She, top to bottom, is just perfect. Yeah, it's definitely better than Fargo.
Okay.
God damn it. All of these top shows are going to be fucking dark, dreary drama.
There's ain't nothing wrong with that as far
There's
as I'm
plenty wrong with
concerned.
that.
Is Fargo better than, or is The Leftovers better than Mad Men? I
this
say
list.
yes.
Yeah.
Is it
Sure.
better than Game of Thrones? I say no.
No. Game of Thrones just has the highlights that The Leftovers had. Plus, it has history. It has more flourish to it.
And the other thing
I'm
is,
happy
the other thing is,
that.
I made this a little biased, but it's super easy to make a compelling world. Like I still have a little bit left over. How much of this is actually going to mean anything at the end when we're 2 or 3 seasons down the line? But I can't penalize it for that. But I'm saying I can't put the proven execution of Game of Thrones and the pure visceral intellectual thrill of True Detective. I can't put The Leftovers over that.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
This Boardwalk Empire, we already did this, right? Boardwalk Empire is not better than any of this. Is Always Sunny better than any of this?
Boardwalk Empire, certainly. If I'm like, It's Always Sunny, so I'm a little biased here, is my favorite comedy.
Okay.
on television.
That's fair. Is it better than any of the dramas we talked about?
Yeah, I think it's easily better than Boardwalk Empire.
Oh, fuck you.
I like Boardwalk Empire was hit and miss this season. It had some really high highs, but it had some kind of lows, man. Like
See, when I think of it,
when I
in
think top
retrospect,
tier, I don't think Boardwalk Empire.
in retrospect, the quote unquote lows of Boardwalk Empire were my nervousness that they're going to
Fuck up the flashbacks, yeah.
And I think that Boardwalk Empire was beautiful art and has always been beautiful art. And I can't put, in good conscience, I can't put any comedy above it.
It's certainly
especially
very
Always Sunny, which is not my favorite comedy. But this is where it's really hard to synthesize a list. And we still have forces and we still have vetoes. So
we do, yeah. I don't think this first pass is where I'm going to use those up.
So I have a hard time, since I'm the guy copy and pasting, I have a hard time moving above Boardwalk Empire.
It's an easy choice above Boardwalk Empire for me.
Is it better than Fargo? Oh, suck a dick. There's no way. No way it's better than Fargo. This wasn't even the best season of Always Sunny. Get the hell out.
You're weighting comedy below dramas just de facto. I don't.
I get that, but I'm saying that this was not even. Are you saying this is the best?
This is the best comedy on television, in my opinion. Period, bar none. And this season of it was no different. It was more of the best comedy on television.
Okay. Well, I mean, okay.
Like, I get your desire to want to rank dramas just above comedies, period, but they don't bring me any less enjoyment because they're comedies.
I'm not saying they're not. I'm just saying that part of my criterion is its overall quality. And I think it's harder to wind up a story about a fairly unlikable guy like Nucky Thompson in a way that's satisfying as it is to get black magic marker and write horror on Dee's forehead or whatever. I mean, I don't want to reduce it to its lowest common denominator, but it's like
that's what you're doing.
but I'm saying it's like it's easier to get a laugh out of a talented ensemble character. I don't know. I can't even say that objectively.
The way It's Always Sunny tells the story.
I think it's hard
brilliant.
to write 10 seasons worth of Always Sunny. It really is. That's where we're at right now, right?
It is. We're going into the 10th. We're in the 10th season right now. Season 9, there are some standout.
But they don't have
episodes.
sets, they don't have costumes, they don't have makeup, they
have all those things. They just don't have them to the degree that like a Game of Thrones does.
You can go to Goodwill and get their
Boardwalk.
wardrobe. You can just walk down Philly or wherever the hell. Do they even shoot in Philadelphia?
I have no idea.
I mean, there's
No
essentially like two sets and then outdoor shit. I don't know. That's my comedy bias going through, but that's a very real thing.
All right, so brilliant episodes from season 9. I think The Gang Broke D is brilliant. The way that It's Always Sunny unwraps a story is surprising almost every time in its intricacy.
Sure.
Like The Gang Broke D is just that to a T.
Okay.
It is, you thought it was one way, it's actually another, and so did the characters in this episode.
Okay.
Gun Fever 2, still hot. This is where they go, like, Mac and Charlie say, we need less guns on the street.
Sure. No, and they end up switching positions.
And by the end of it, they totally switched. And I like the
and
way
it's smart
that story,
commentary on gun culture in America.
Absolutely. Gang tries desperately to win an award. I don't like that one so much. Buying a timeshare, that's pretty good.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's pretty good. They pull that kind of same trick. The Gang Saves the Day is interesting because that's the one where they get caught at a convenience store and someone robs it, and then they all kind of picture the way that they're going to react to this in their heads. And Mac goes in with his karate. Charlie's part is a cartoon, like, because that's who Charlie is, right? I think that's good. The Gang Gets Quarantined might be the best episode of this season, unless Lethal Weapon 6. Those Lethal Weapon episodes are always
Wait a
great.
second.
The Gang Gets Quarantined.
What season? When was the air date in that? Are you sure you're talking about that last season? Because I didn't think the last season had a Lethal Weapon joke.
No, you're right. You're right. It's
You son of a bitch.
2013.
Okay, I thought that.
They didn't do one in 2014. Or no, the end of this season must have been 2014, right?
Oh.
No, it's 2013.
Yeah, they didn't
It's
have
Always
a
Sunny,
season
I
of
guess,
Always
can't
Sunny
even be in
last
it.
year. Aha!
God damn it.
We're saved. We're saved
All
the
right.
bloodbath.
Yep. there
Thank
we go.
Christ. Parks and Rec,
Huh.
is it better than Boardwalk Empire?
Did they have 2 seasons in 2013 then?
I thought that there was something about them missing a season. And does that sometimes. Like Louis missed a season.
Yeah, no, they just skipped 2014. Huh. All right, never mind. I assumed that last season was 2014.
Are you sure? Like the Wikipedia article doesn't have one?
I'm not on Wikipedia. I'm on IMDb.
Okay.
And it's saying 2013 on all those.
But that's the last, that's the last season?
Yeah, because 10 is the one that they're on right now.
Okay. All right. So great. I'm fine with it not being even on the top 10.
All right.
Dodge the bullet.
That sucks.
Parks and Rec, is it better than any of the dramas previous? You're not going to say yes because you haven't even seen it.
No.
I would not suggest that it was better. Orange is the New Black is another one that's kind of me. Is it better than Parks and Rec? Yeah. Yeah. Now it's going to get interesting. House of Cards, is it better than Parks and Rec and Orange is the New Black?
I say yes because I haven't seen either of them.
My drama bias kicks in, and yes, I think it is better. Is Cosmos better than anything that came before it?
Cosmos is important in a way that
Yep.
none of these shows are.
But it certainly fails the entertainment test.
Not if you're talking about your intellectual stimulation.
But I said your entertainment test.
Yeah, my entertainment test, certainly. Yeah.
Okay.
But it wouldn't fail yours.
Certainly, but a lot of the stuff in Cosmos I already knew. That was the one.
Sure.
I guess the
It's
one
a
thing
re-
I was a
it's a
little
remake.
disappointed is that it was great for my son, but the original Cosmos really stretched people's noodles about
Yeah.
what the universe was and how vast it was and all this.
Mm-hmm.
I was a little bit disappointed that this Cosmos, and I don't keep up with the bleeding edge of astrophysics or anything like that, or evolutionary science or any of that stuff, but there was very little new information. I thought the first episode had some grandiose, just scale, ways to think about scale, but no,
It did.
I've seen better science shows.
Yeah, I don't know. Ultimately, I thought the scale stuff fell a little flat too.
And
it's
the cosmic calendar and the cosmic clock, I got it just fine, but I talked to several people that were very confused by it, and my son just completely shot over his head.
I was not confused by it. I just didn't think it was very effective. Like how does that help to narrow down the scale very much, right? Like what is a second within a year?
Yeah,
It's the
right.
same kind of scale problem that you have with a star inside the universe.
Sure.
I didn't feel like it helped much. I don't know. It's hard because this is another category, right? It's not a comedy. It's not a drama. It is a educational program.
The things I learned were like history of science type things,
Mm-hmm.
which is great, but it doesn't float my boat as much as just pure discovery. Honestly,
Sure.
Interstellar made me think more and stretched my boundaries of science more than fucking Cosmos.
Prompted you to go read a book about it.
Yeah, I read the science of the Interstellar. and
Yeah,
it bit
I
my
mean,
mind.
I have a hard time, completely kicking it off a list just because of how important the original Cosmos is and what that might be like this new one for the new generation.
Cosmos not looking good for the top 10 because I'm already seeing a lot of stuff down here.
I'm pretty okay with that.
Let's move into the Americans. I think the Americans is better than
The 4 above it.
you're including House
Nah,
of Cards. I think it's better than House of Cards. It doesn't quite get over the boardwalk hump for me, but let's put it because it sounds like
I'm struggling with House of Cards.
you're clearly thinking it's better than.
There was no Threecham in the Americans. Is all I'm saying. All right, let's leave it there.
No,
for
but
now.
there was the was it Clark, Martha, Elizabeth? You know, like I mean, that's fucked up.
With his
and it's-
sister?
Yeah.
Yeah. How Clark is
Like that's as fucked up as Kevin Spacey seducing Meacham.
I don't think there's anything fucked up about Kevin Spacey
Threecham.
seducing Meacham. The
No,
fucked
come
up thing
on,
is what they're
man.
doing to Martha in that situation. My
Right.
God.
Yeah.
There's
If you don't think
man,
there's anything,
I like the
this
Americans
isn't a gay
lot.
thing. This is like a vice president seducing his protective detail with his wife, using pornography as the like let him walk in on him watching porn as the hook. Like
Yeah,
that's the fucked up part about it.
sure. Man, the Americans. I'm fresh off the Americans is the problem. You know, like House of Cards. It's been almost a year.
I think House of Cards is just super fun to watch, and Americans, and it's I'll say it's a lot of the Russian subtitled stuff. I think they're both about the same as far as goodness, but
Yeah.
the Americans is more effort. So I feel like it's can't get over the House of Cards bump. I might put it over House of Cards, but
Yeah,
no,
when I
I
think
mean,
about like, see, I like the stuff with Stan a lot more than you did this
Yeah.
year. Stan and Nina.
yeah.
Um,
I like Nina. I like Nina a lot. I like
It
Nina.
kind of fell apart for me somewhere with Stan and his wife a little bit. Like I didn't totally get their relationship and why they were kind of just floundering around like they were.
Yeah.
It felt like maybe that's an accurate scenario in real life, but in a show, I don't really want to see 5 episodes of him coming home to her and completely ignoring her.
Yeah. And her doing some new age hippie shit that doesn't even pay off.
Yeah.
Like,
So, like, I'm struggling to think of moments in House of Cards where that is the case, where there seemed to be some floundering, and I can't come up with any. So
Kevin Spacey trying to throw a baseball.
that was he.
That was
floundered.
some world class flounder right there.
Yeah, flopping for sure. All right, let's leave that as is for now.
Okay. The Nick.
I haven't seen the Nick. This is gonna be you, man.
I have a hard time moving it up higher than it is.
Really?
Yeah.
Even above Cosmos, Parks and Rec?
Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
I grin ear to ear watching Parks and Rec. The Nick, I mean, like I said, by the end I really enjoy it, and I'm looking forward to season 2. But this is a testament to how awesome TV is. We've even seen all of what is bandied about as the best television. We're having a hard time with this top 10.
Sure.
So Key and Peele. My gut tells me I want to move it right between Orange is the New Black and Parks and Rec because it's funnier than Parks and Rec. But it's not as good as a drama as Orange is the New Black. So if it was just me making this list,
Well, I think it's just you on this one. I've seen some Key and Peele, but certainly not anything I could pinpoint as this season.
all right,
And I know you're a huge fan of it, so.
okay. So Portlandia.
No, it's just not funny enough of a show.
I don't think Portlandia moves over the Nick. It's kind of interesting. This I'm starting to feel like this is a ringer, but yeah, I don't. Louis, I would put above the Nick, maybe even above Cosmos, but not above Parks and Rec.
Again, I don't know about this season.
And it's
of
not. It isn't a threat to the top 10, so I'm like less interested in it. So like if I was going to set it, I'd probably stick it right either the 12 or 13 spot. I don't know. Newsroom.
Newsroom I like, but man,
Wait. How
it
the hell
fell
did we
apart.
lose? How the hell did we lose a show?
Did you lose the show?
Did we? Oh yes, we did lose
It's
a
Always
show
Sunny,
because
yeah.
It's Always Sunny. All right.
Newsroom I like. Newsroom falls apart at the end.
Does Newsroom go above anything? Maybe Portlandia.
Yeah, I mean, definitely Portlandia. I think
Does it get above Cosmos for you? Because if not, then I'm not going to move it above the Nick either. Okay. Last Week of John Oliver.
Man, see, I like this show. It is both
I think it's
funny
better than Cosmos.
and super important.
I think it did a better job at what it was setting out to do than Cosmos did.
I think you're right.
But I don't like it more than Parks and Rec.
I mean, I do, obviously, because I haven't seen those. And it's not like this show. I'm waiting on just what it's trying to do and how well it does that and what is important about it. You know, none of these shows are really important. I could live my life never seeing True Detective, never seeing Game of Thrones. I think this has, you know, a social conscience as much as like an Orange is the New Black.
My one complaint about it is that I don't think it changed my mind on anything. Like
You kind of already agreed with everything though, didn't you?
I mean, it
Like all his
definitely
points.
it definitely intensified. Like I didn't have an opinion one way or another over the Miss America pageant, other than the fact it seems like a sexist, embarrassing thing that 20 years from now we'll be like, shit, we did that. But yeah, I'm struggling to think of even one example. Well, small time politics. I was shocked. I guess that did kind of turn me around because I kind of thought this. I've always thought the politics is local and that people pay way too much attention to the presidential race and they don't pay any attention to their local representatives, to the House of Representatives, and to the Senate, and their senators to the Senate, let alone the local, like the House of Representatives for Indiana.
Sure.
Like no one, like that's like you either vote straight party or whatever, and that's where the nuts and bolts. I mean, it's like, you know, he really convinced me that I thought federal government was trickle down, like laws they kind of pushed their way down, but he really argued that it was bottom up. Like these states really are test beds for these legislation that then gets moved up, and
Totally
you know, it's another one that's like, well, shit, the world's going hell in a handbasket. But it did kind of change my mind on that. But that wasn't a deeply held conviction I had either. So that's my one knock on it is I kind of am skeptical that as a radical moderate, I broadly agreed with most every point he was making. And so if we're talking about it being so important and all this and that, it's like, well, if he's preaching to the choir, is it? Like,
that's fair.
Is it a top? I mean, does it break I guess the key thing is I would put it above Cosmos, but it doesn't crack my top 10. Like, honestly, I think Orange is the New Black does a better job at changing people's minds about
9 through 11 is a void for me, right? Like I haven't seen any of those.
Yeah, I don't like that.
If it goes above Cosmos, it naturally for me goes to number 9. Like that's a problem.
Well, I think that maybe Silicon Valley sneaks into the top 10, which feels like a fair compromise.
Yeah, it's a shame because I don't like that show quite as much as It's Always Sunny, but you know,
Always Sunny wasn't on last year,
last
Jim.
year.
Because like when you're talking about, it's like that's like there's no fucking way that was 2 years ago.
You know, I was wondering, like I've seen all these episodes so many times. How is it possible that Netflix doesn't have the latest seasons up? And I'm like, oh well, I guess it has been 2 years since they've done an episode.
All right, here's my spot for John Oliver. And we'll see if it actually matters later on.
Sure.
Walking Dead is better than Portlandia. It's better than Newsroom. And that's about as high as I can put it. Maybe if I had enough of these, I'd put it above, you know, Louis. And I bet there's no way it gets past Parks and Rec. Fuck off.
It's not made as well as any of the dramas we have above it.
It could be. It's still 5 seasons in, has potential to be better than it is.
I know. I'm taking last season. I'm saying the level of execution was just not there. They have some tremendous acting talent. They have the bones of an interesting universe and some decent writing, but it's so spotty. It is so spotty, man. That show is not consistent on any level.
Yeah.
I honestly don't feel like it's top 10 worthy.
Oh, certainly not. I was just saying, like, where if we get it to a top 20, which we need to get we need to go down through the dregs.
See, for me, this goes. I mean, I haven't seen The Nick.
Yeah, that's rough.
The Newsroom or The Walking Dead. I like so
I
much
feel
of
like
the
the-
newsroom is a miss for me.
Yeah, I feel like The Walking Dead's better than Newsroom from an entertainment value. I mean, The Walking Dead is not important. It could be.
No, the
but it's
newsroom.
not.
I feel like the newsroom could be as well, but it's
The Newsroom is more important as far
Yeah.
as stuff it says about journal. Like I agree
Yeah.
with its main thesis about journalism, and I don't understand why journalism is as broken as it is. Although
yeah.
I found myself really agreeing with a lot of the stuff it said about new media, which I wasn't. I was expecting to be like, oh, you're a grandpa Sorkin. You don't.
Yeah, yeah.
But no, I mean, it really.
Oh, you're
lays-
a grandpa, Aaron.
Well, there's not this much gray in my beard for nothing. But I felt like it really took a brick bat to new media,
Yeah, it does.
to the Gawkers, to like even the Vices of the world.
Yeah. No, definitely. What about the acting? I think the acting in the newsroom is
Overstated, to say the least. It's not great.
aside from Will,
Who
like
even
Jeff Daniels playing Will.
some of the stuff Eric Sorkin puts in his mouth is ridiculous, though.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. Like I don't feel like any of these characters are anything other than Aaron Sorkin's mouthpiece.
Yep.
Is the problem.
Yep.
Whereas The Walking Dead, I feel like there are some realized characters in there.
Sure.
And the execution of everything except for the plot and the writing on The Walking Dead is excellent. Like special effects, it's not a period piece, but it's got a definite setting to it, right? Like everything looks appropriately grungy. The special effects are fantastic. Those things have to weigh somewhere in the equation, and I think for me they weigh enough in the equation to put it above Newsroom.
Okay. But no higher. Does it get past?
Yeah,
the
it's a shame, man, because I freaking love some of the messages in Newsroom, but you just
Newsroom's
there's
silly.
so-
It's a silly
the
show.
characters, yeah.
And The Walking Dead's a silly show.
You're right. They both are kind of silly.
I feel like, in a strange way, The Walking Dead is slightly less silly than The Newsroom,
They both take themselves so seriously too,
Yep.
and that's the problem.
which is part of the unintentional comedy effect of both.
But if you're asking me who are the better characters, which series has the better characters, Michonne is a great character.
Yeah.
Rick is a great
fantastic. Rick is a
character.
great character.
Carl and his interactions with Rick are great.
Daryl and Carol.
Daryl and Carol are really well characterized in a show that doesn't
Sure.
smack of that. You know,
I thought Bob and Sasha were cute this last season too. And
there are some misses. There are huge fucking swing for the fence misses.
Sure.
Like strike 3, you're out misses.
sure.
But I think they're in the newsroom too.
Yep.
I really think they're in the newsroom, and to a more egregious, because of how important newsroom wants to be. I think the newsroom doesn't beat out The Walking Dead. God, I hate saying that, but I think it's true.
Let me ask you this: Silicon Valley. This is going to be all
like the
you
show.
in
I
a
like
way
the
that
show
some
a
of these
lot.
have been all you. Is it better than Portlandia?
Oh yeah, easily.
Is it better than Newsroom?
Yeah,
Is it better than
Yeah.
Walking Dead?
yeah. It doesn't. I mean, its characters are silly, but on purpose.
I'm gonna skip to Nick. Is it better than Louis? Ooh,
Louis a weird one, man. Louis is just such a fucking anomaly.
We're getting a little bit more of thought. I thought this would sail through to at least 11, to at least like I don't know where I
yeah, I don't.
this.
I don't know that I like 9 through 15. There is the problem. Like I haven't seen most of those,
All right.
so it's tough.
So is it better than Louis? Is it better than Cosmos? Because if it's better than Cosmos, it's by definition better than Louis.
Well, no, because I've seen Cosmos. I haven't seen Louis.
Oh, you didn't see last season? Oh,
I didn't see last season of Louis. I saw all of Cosmos.
okay. Is
so.
it better than Cosmos?
Damn it, Neil deGrasse Tyson. Yeah, it is.
Is it better than Last Week of John Oliver?
It's certainly funnier. It's way funnier.
And that's the other thing. It's like, is it better than The Americans?
That's see, I'm kind of biased toward the drama as well, except for very few shows like
Yep.
like Archer.
I
and
think
It's
I
Always
finally
Sunny.
articulated it. If you go by nothing except for the set and the character design and the costuming and special, like all that stuff, like the comedies just don't have to deal with.
Yeah.
There are reasons for my bias. I haven't fully thought of them, but that's a big one. Is Silicon Valley better than? Because I thought we might have a good compromise and put it as number 10. Because I haven't seen, I couldn't say either way. But if you wanted to say, like, I would fight you about it being better than Orange is the New Black, having not seen it.
Like, here's the thing. I think if it gets past
But-
Cosmos and Louis, it gets past everything above Cosmos and Louis. Because what I've seen of
Is
Louis,
it better? But you can't say it's better than Americans.
no. I mean, it's honestly for me, it's really the only comedy in this entire list that gets into the top 10, if at all.
All right. Well,
I think all the other comedies
I'm
are.
comfortable if you really
kidding.
like it that much to put it at number 9, bumping Orange is the New Black to 10.
You know, there were a couple of episodes in Silicon Valley that didn't do it for me.
That's that's
somewhere in the
damning.
middle. I know. Gabe as a character, okay, but not great. He kind of basically plays the same character that guy always plays.
Oh, you know another
which
one.
is the completely meek, nerdy guy who.
You know, though, when we talk about *Halt and Catch Fire*, it would just be a strike off, but we did watch that. And
I watched a few episodes of it. Yeah.
yeah.
You know, I'm okay with having at least one comedy in the top 10.
Well, we're gonna
I
have
think
two, arguably, with *Orange is the New Black*.
Oh yeah, I guess that is a comedy.
It's more of a dramedy.
Yeah, which is where I run into problems with Louis.
All right, so are you happy with this?
Man, I can't believe that Key and Peele is not above
It's a
Orange
comedy.
for you.
It's a comedy. It's not.
Yeah.
It's as hard as what they do is. It's not as hard as making a prison full of women.
This is not
compelling
the
and
best
funny
list. Are you
and-
losing sight of this is not the best of 2014? This is the favorite
Yeah,
of 2014?
right.
Okay.
There was one or two. That's the other thing. There's one or two episodes of Key and Peele where me and Cecily were like, "Wow, that was 30 minutes and like the skit didn't come together."
Yeah.
Like the two old women praying in church about that.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't even. But that just. A very rare, like, you know how Saturday Night Live sometimes has a very funny concept, but it goes on like way longer, and it's the same joke being repeated with slightly different words.
Yeah.
Key and Peele almost never does that, but every once in a while they will. And there was a one or two, maybe even two whole episodes where I felt like I just wasn't picking up their vibe. And to me, that's what separates the great from the good. Is like when I look at these top. Like Fargo's got the fucking fishnado, but that wasn't a fatal flaw. Like the top 4 to me doesn't have missteps. Fargo has one. Boardwalk Empire might have one. House of Cards doesn't have any, but it's just not as strong. Now you're dealing with these are things that like have a few flaws, but they're still great.
Mm-hmm.
This category is not as great as what came before it, but it might not have as obvious weaknesses.
Sure.
Like some people say that like Paige's character in Americans was cringeworthy and bad, but I'm like, I survived Dana Brody. She's a better teenage character than R.J. Mitty, or than Walt Jr. If you're complaining about Paige, you just hate teenagers, which is fine. Teenagers are fucking annoying. I used to be one.
Yeah.
I understand. Like I get it, but like
No, the thing that started to annoy me about Paige was just how much of the story was hinging on her, being an angsty teenager and finding out that her parents are lying to her about something.
But that would
Like-
totally happen.
I know, but I don't want the show to focus on that. That's not what the show is about to me. And so when they started to get into that, I was like, okay, enough. And then they backed off, right? They took 2 episodes where they
Sure.
said, no Paige. We're not dealing with any of that shit. We're going back to the spy stuff. And that really worked for me because by the time they came back around to Paige, I was ready to see more of it.
All right, so the only one that I have not seen in the top 10 is Silicon Valley, but I'll trust your assessment on that if you want it to be there.
Yeah, I think it deserves to hit top 10.
So now I feel like we need to pull something from the scrap heap to round out a top 20 just for fun, because we're only going to talk about the top 10 on the podcast.
Yeah, no, we're not doing a top 20
I
here,
know,
man.
but
We're
like
making a
we're
top
so
10
close
list.
to having a top 20. Let's pull
Don't put
something.
anything we already ixnayed back on the list.
Yeah, but some of these we didn't ixnay because we knew they were obvious top 10, and I've got a completionist.
we still have
streak
to
going.
narrow down this 20 to 10.
We already did.
I don't think
We
we're
just
done.
built the top 10.
I don't think we're done haggling over these top 10.
Okay, that's fine, but we're not going to advance any of these into the top 10. So, like, can we grab one from the dustbin to throw up so we have a top
What's
20?
the fucking point? Sure, why not?
Okay.
I don't give a shit.
Aw, come on.
Why does it matter? It doesn't matter. We're not making a top 20 list. We're making a top 10.
Come on, man.
Yeah, put X-Dan up there. Go for it, man. Just throw it right up there.
Yeah, I mean, girls would be the one if I look at all these.
All right, go for it. And then let's take it off the list because it's not going to make the top 10.
Yeah, but I'll post the top 20. That's what I was getting at.
Well, you're posting the top 20?
Yeah, why not?
What for?
I don't know. Why
What
not?
kind of list are we making? Top 10 or top 20?
We're making a top 10 that has a also expanded top 20 that we post somewhere.
Why stop at 20? Let's go to the top 50.
Because I haven't seen that many episodes.
Oh my God. All right.
All right. Top 10. God damn. Is Game of Thrones better than True Detective?
I want to go through this and say these are the things that absolutely must be on top 10. Because I feel like True Detective, Game of Thrones, Leftovers, Mad Men.
We already did that.
Fargo.
We have a non-controversial top 10, I think, except for Silicon Valley, and that's only because I haven't seen it. But I'm fine with it being there if you loved it so much.
Would I change anything about the
I'm actually
top
happy with the
5?
order. So,
Yeah, it's tough. I haven't seen Orange is the New Black. My gut reaction is to throw Silicon Valley above it, but that's because I haven't seen it.
well, I wouldn't just because of my dramedy comedy bias.
Yeah, I don't think that's fair. I value entertainment. I don't just value.
Orange is the New Black is funny and entertaining too, but I'm just saying, it's
My
it's
question
almost
is, like-
stupid. Like maybe I mean,
Well, my question here that I'm asking myself is Silicon Valley a better comedy than The Americans is a drama? Does it execute on what it's trying to do better than any of these other shows do on what they're trying to do? And in my
Wow.
mind, like the Americans is good. The Americans is not great, in my opinion. Like it doesn't get into the top tier by any means, right?
I don't know. I feel like if it's in the top 10 list, it's great by definition.
No, I disagree. I think there's great television, and there's good television that came out in that year.
See, I think that's where like sports has a like. There needs to be something above great, like Hall of Fame.
That's the thing. That's my great label.
Okay,
Like, my
but there's
great
only
label
like
is-
to me, you've got maybe the top 4, maybe 5 of Fargo of great like Hall of Fame shit.
Yeah, and some of these I don't even know about yet. Cause,
Boardwalk
they're
as a
one
series,
season
I would
in.
put there, but at this season,
I
don't
wouldn't
know.
put Boardwalk there as a series.
See, it's in my Boardwalk's in my
three's-
top 5.
Season 3 and 4 were kind of bullshit to me.
Oh, see,
Like,
I like them better than first 1 and 2.
That's shocking. I think that is definitely not the opinion of the most of the people who've seen Boardwalk.
I'm not arguing that. I just Boardwalk hits me just in the right spot.
Yeah.
But I think you've got like, I'll even say like even the top 3 shows are great, are like Hall of Fame season worthy. It's
Like,
hard
that's the
because I
thing,
start
if you-
running I start running the series where I
Yes.
start giving nods to like, well, Mad Men because it's so great.
Yeah, if you're
Even
asking
though
me
this is not the best Mad Men season.
if you're asking me which of these shows is the best show, Leftovers doesn't get to Mad Men's quality. Like I swap Leftovers and Mad Men easily.
Yeah, if we're
Easily.
ranking shows, but we're ranking
know.
Seasons, which makes it tough. So what?
Yeah.
So where do you want to make changes in the top 10? Because honestly, except for Silicon Valley, I'm fine with the top 10.
So my top 10 is I think Silicon Valley's too low but I haven't seen Orange is the New Black. I think Silicon Valley.
Is it better than the Americans? Is what I really want to know from you.
Man, it's close. It's real close. No, I don't think it is. You know, honestly, I'm trying to think of missteps in the Americans.
I can't think of it.
I just don't think it's the acting is great. The setting is realized really well.
I actually think
I'm kind of waffling on House of Cards and the Americans now.
one of the things I don't appreciate about the Americans is I feel like the attention to setting is not to the Mad Men level. Like I feel like there's some aspects of especially Elizabeth and Philip that are way too modern. And they only get really 80s when they dress up. And to me, that's a little bit Hollywood bullshit. And like like the FBI's office, way too fucking modern.
Oh, the cubes.
Like you can tell that is a
open-
modern that's a modern
open
office
office,
that
yeah.
they have put and even modern systems furniture that they've put like old typewriters and stuff on.
Yeah.
Whereas Mad Men would go and source the 50s era's desks
yeah.
and all that stuff and go all out to decorations. And a lot of the houses you can kind of and apartments and stuff are a little bit too modern. Now there are a lot of things like every time I see Philip and Elizabeth's bed, I'm like, shit, that's my mom and dad's bed frame, man.
Sure.
That was the fucking thing that had, that little cheap ass
Yeah.
bronze looking thing. That's what we had. They had, and
You know what? I felt like the living room where Henry breaks into to play in television, like the TV.
little modern.
Yeah, the TV and the gaming console were perfect.
Yeah.
The room itself, the furniture was not accurate.
Yeah, like they don't go to the extent of trying to find like the architecture. It's like
Yeah.
it's done a little on the cheap.
People
and that
didn't
bothers
have
me
those
about
open
Americans.
houses.
No,
Like those big vaulted ceilings and
No.
none of that shit really was a thing for normal families.
Now I get that
you
this
know?
is an upscale neighborhood,
Sure.
but
Yeah.
no,
the
there are
Jennings
definite
house is nice.
definite things that bug me that I think maybe if they went a little extra mile in the location scouting
Mm-hmm.
and a little bit extra mile in the whoever they get to do historical accuracy department. I don't know who does that shit, but and then there's some just odd like
Yeah.
they have like models of cars, especially I think someone said like in the pilot they had Philip driving around in 87. That's just stupid. That shouldn't happen. That stuff is easy to get right.
Yeah.
So,
But then some of the car stuff they do really well. Like,
yeah.
They pick some great cars, like
No.
the Camaro that he buys.
But I feel like that there is a little bit of bias towards making things look cool and appeal to our modern sensibilities rather than we're going to make it just as it is and like we're going to with the characters and the way they're going to make it look cool.
That's so strange. You're right. But when they go to the spycraft stuff, it's all straight out of the 80s.
Sure.
It feels really accurate.
Right. But
whereas House of Cards doesn't have that level of difficulty to nail, right?
exactly
It's present day.
Yep. But so
So do you take points from the Americans?
that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think,
Yeah.
but I'm trying to, when you're saying if I want to put the Americans above House of Cards, I have a hard time because there are some execution problems for me for the Americans to put me completely, you compare the Americans and its period difficulty to like a Downton Abbey or a Boardwalk Empire or even the True Detective. At no point when they were dealing with the stuff that happened in the early 80s, or even in the late 80s, I'm not even sure when it happened, did I feel like it was out of place. And part of it was that it was in a different part of the country, which I guess I'm not that familiar with Baltimore either, but I don't know. The Americans just doesn't, I grew up in the 80s, all right?
Yeah.
And there's some things that really strike me as that's not very 80s.
Yeah. No, I'm
So-
with you. You know what strikes me about this list is we are basically saying not only have we seen all of these shows and think they're worthy of the top 10, but we have podcasted about almost all of these shows in the top 10. Silicon Valley and True Detective being the exceptions.
We should have done True Detective.
Are you saying that we have podcasted about the only television that is worthy to be watched in 2014?
No, but I think there's there's an obvious bias there, right?
That's what I'm worried about. Are we biasing it? I don't think so. I feel pretty good about the quality level, about how the quality level falls off in this list. Maybe with the exception of Silicon Valley being below Orange is the New Black, but I've not seen it. Like that's the hard part of 9 and 10 is that you haven't seen one and I haven't seen the other.
Yeah.
So
The other thing that bugs me about Silicon Valley is I don't know why, but it didn't get a lot of love at the of most people's end of. I was actually kind of surprised when you threw it on there. It didn't get a lot of love in a lot of people's end of season lists.
Interesting.
Where things like Veep and Orange is the New Black and Girls and all that kind of stuff did.
Yeah, Veep is just not my type of show. It's Sorkin-esque, and that's okay, but ultimately I like my entertainment a little more entertaining.
No, but Julie Louis-Dreyfus is really good.
And
Anna
Silicon
Schlumsky
Valley-
is really good.
Yeah, no, they're great.
Or is it Chums? What is her name? The My Girl that grew up.
I don't know her actual name. And Silicon Valley sags a little bit in the middle. Like I said, I don't really like Gabe. Like you've seen the Office episodes with him in it, right?
Who is Gabe?
He's the tall, lanky.
He's the HR guy.
In the Office.
Office. Blonde.
I don't think he's blonde.
Who is the tall, lanky guy in the Office?
He's not in all the seasons. He's not like a regular. He's in like 2 seasons. Let me see if I can get his name. Silicon Valley. His name is...
But you're not saying it's better than Americans?
Sorry, his name's Jared, not Gabe. Zach Woods. Do you know who that is?
No.
Let's
No,
spin
don't
this
do it.
around.
No, I was gonna say, don't steal my screen.
That guy?
He was in the Office.
Yeah. Yeah, for a couple seasons.
Okay. Is it better than Americans? That's what I'm really curious about.
No, it's not. It's a shame though. I'm
Do you want to do a coin flip for Orange is the New Black or Silicon Valley?
No. Man, I like the stuff I've seen of Key and Peele is really funny, but I feel like I've only seen the best of Key and Peele.
It's probably true because it's the stuff I've shown you on YouTube. I wouldn't show you bullshit.
Yeah, and like so, for me, I might even swap Silicon Valley and Key and Peele. But like I said, I haven't seen this season, and I haven't seen the bad ones.
Key and Peele's a sketch show too, so I think the degree of difficulty for that is inherently less difficult than a series comedy as well.
Really, even with the SNL effect in play.
Yeah,
I feel like it's hard to come up with original ideas over and over in
I
skit format.
I sometimes in my more delusional days think we could do a pretty good Key and Peele style show with if we had the time, like if we had a whole year to sit around and bullshit and come up with 30 solid ideas and then had their budget. Now, the thing is their budget and their creative vision to execute on that budget the way they do is what really separates them apart.
And they're very talented actors as well.
And they're very funny comedians.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing is like a lot of what makes their sketches work is you're right. They are good actors.
Yeah.
Startlingly good in some of this stuff.
Yeah, and they're, in Fargo, I think they show that. They're pretty good in Fargo.
Yeah.
Like, I don't
yeah.
think they're
No,
scene
no.
stealers,
But they're kind of like intentional jerk off characters in the
Yeah.
way sometimes Coen brother characters are.
yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, what makes it work is how well they're able to execute with all of their skill sets. But man, it's tough. And the other thing is the season was really short. Like they had 8 episodes. It's one of those another ones where they split it up and they're going to air the back half this fall or something.
Yeah, so was Mad Men.
Yeah,
I mean-
I'm not a huge fan of that trend, although it's very good for us as podcasters.
Yeah, sure.
But I don't know, man. Key and Peele for me is definitely not better than Orange is the New Black. So that's where it can't rise higher than it is.
Is there anything I would throw even higher? I don't think so.
So now, let's put a pin in that. Let's return to the True Detective Game of Thrones.
Were there any problems with Game of Thrones season, or was it just
Sure.
perfect on every
to
level?
me, but I mean, some of it was a little spoilery. But I thought that the execution in some of the connecting episodes, I felt like they did a really poor job of making me give a shit about what's going on in the wall. You know, and especially for you, like I gave more shits than you did because I actually was aware of the book backstory of some of these guys, and which gave a little bit of heft when you know some people lived and some people died. To me, as a person who didn't read the books, I don't know why you give a shit about anybody at the wall except for John and Sir Alistair, who is an asshole.
I like Sam just because, you know, he's
Sam. Yeah, I
he's
forgot
Sam.
about him
Yeah.
and his, I guess, girl that he's always preoccupied with. But as just as a television watcher, they
Sure.
really haven't made the Brotherhood work up there.
No, and it seemed to me like, well, I don't know. So the army coming down is a very scary proposition, heading down into King's Landing. But I feel like King's Landing is such a miserable place with a bunch of miserable people that I don't even know that I care that it gets wiped out on some level.
Are you talking about the Blackwater episode in season 2?
No.
Or are you talking about the
I'm
wildlings just running amok?
Yeah, I'm talking about the army, like Raider Mance, who's coming down from
See,
the north.
that's the other thing is I never felt like that they are a threat to the South. Like
feel like they
that's a pain.
might
That's
be.
yet another blow to the North. But
Yeah, honestly, all of it felt like a stalling tactic until Daenerys can get her army raised.
and also it's like I feel like it's a little bit of a Lawrence of Arabia situation that like Mance Rayder could not lead an army down because guys would be like, "You fuck you! I've got my acres and my farm and my women. I'm staying here." And like as he went south, and the loot piled up and the land piled up, and you know they'd be less and less people till he got to King's Landing, and the Lannisters and the Tyrells would just crush them.
Yeah, and now this
And you
there-
saw
there are
how
giants
effective
living in
mounted
Winterfell.
cavalry was against them. My God. Like, good
Sure.
fucking luck beating the Knights of Westeros with your stone
Yeah.
axes and bow and arrows.
Yeah, you might be right. That's not much of a threat. I feel like the real threat is only going to come from Daenerys, and I don't know. I don't know why they stalled there. I mean, are they just trying to make Daenerys more of a leader before they send her inevitably to King's Landing? That totally looks like what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's tough for me to comment because
I
that's
know.
a book reader frustration as well
Okay.
at this point.
I don't know,
in
but the
time.
highs of Game of Thrones are higher than anything else I've seen on TV. Like straight up, the highs of Game of Thrones: Oberyn's death,
and the
Joffrey's
lows,
death.
and like I said, that's the
I don't think the lows are super low though.
No, I'm saying lows like Oberyn's death was.
That's a high point for me,
Well,
right?
okay.
Because it's super engaging. It's,
Yeah.
It's fun to watch.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you're rooting for Oberyn. You don't want him
Sure,
to die, but when he does,
Yeah.
hell, he went out spectacularly. Tyrion's speech,
Sure.
laws of God and men, and then you know what he does with his father at the end, and leaves the he kills his father, leaves King's Landing. Man, that's so many high points in this season.
I agree. I just think it's a
Where are the high points in True Detective?
season episode 4,
Episode 4 is a good
8.
What happens in episode 8?
That's the end. The shootout at Carcassonne.
Oh, they only did 8 episodes of that? I thought it
Yeah,
was
it's
10
like
for some reason.
walk the bride's path, little man.
Sure.
Just how beautiful it was. Like
There was
when
a
they
shootout
showed
at
the
another house as
swamps
well.
and the fields of Louisiana and the rundown towns, and it had such a sense of setting and place. I love the subtle hallucinations, like culminating into the Stargate opening at the end that kind of gave you a little bit of that. Cthulhu mythos feel that people were kind of expecting, and I thought they walked
Yeah.
that balance for me perfectly.
Like some sort of astrological hints in
Yeah,
there.
to me that's and I even liked one of my highlights is the parallel structure of Marty and Russ telling in modern day their exploits.
Yeah.
Where you had Russ like, and he took the machine gun out, started, and then they showed him just like firing it. Like I thought that was really brilliant.
Yeah,
the
that
intersection
shootout
of
was
that
the
stuff,
other one that I really liked.
and the retelling of it afterwards was really really good. So yeah, I love it. I kind of want to put The Leftovers over Game of Thrones, which I know you would fucking have a heenie about.
Yeah, I don't.
But I
don't think
prize
so.
I prize new experiences and emotional feelings over stuff like Game of Thrones. But again, Game of
I don't
Thrones.
want to be kicked in the dick every single episode, and I felt like that's what The Leftovers and
Sure.
True Detective both did to me.
And Game of Thrones, I will admit, is a little bit blunted for me because I know what's coming,
Yeah.
and I haven't been disappointed yet. Although it's kind of because, the one scene where it was
Yeah.
new for me as a book reader, which was where we went way north beyond the wall and we saw the formation of a White Walker.
Yeah.
Like I was that. I mean, if I was getting that every fucking week, I don't know. I might feel different about it because I was like, when that was going on.
Yeah, there was some stuff with Bran that was meh, but I'm allergic to fireballs, so not really my
Didn't
thing.
like the Jason and Argonaut skeletons. All right.
It was okay.
Are you going to fight me over True Detective in the Game of Thrones?
I guess not. I mean, when you go through and you highlight the highs of True Detective, I don't think that those highs are as high as Game of Thrones, but I also would not point to any lows in True Detective. Like, period. I don't think there were any missteps in True Detective.
Although you said
I
the
think-
first 3 episodes were kind of for you. That's what.
Yeah.
I have a hard
They're
time
so
reconciling
dark. They're
those.
so like his outlook on the universe is so bleak, and just dry that it was hard for me to get into it.
But again, I saw
But-
that as comedy, and I feel
Yeah.
that I subscribe to Russ Cole's newsletter on Life.
That's the thing. I don't totally disagree with him, but I don't know that I want to watch a show about what's going on inside my own head half the time. But I think like when you take that and you say, okay, now watch episode 4. Now watch the plot come together. Now watch these characters who we've established interact. Season 3 is kind of, the vegetables of the dinner that is True Detective.
Okay.
Like it took me all of season 1 multiple times to get into Mad Men. That's not necessarily a bad thing
Sure.
overall.
Yeah.
It just means that it's tough to get into. But once you get into it, I think it's super rewarding. I'm okay with True Detective as number 1.
And the other thing is like when you first started and you got into Mad Men, you were in your mid-20s.
Something like that. Yeah.
There is a certain amount of maturity, I think, in terms of storytelling and all that. Like that's pretty tough sledding. Like it's like a 13-year-old trying to read War and Peace.
Which I still wouldn't try to read.
Yeah, I mean, there's a certain thing where like I think that's like if I tried to watch Wire 15 years ago,
Oh.
there's no way I would have had the patience.
Yeah, that's another one.
Or the life experience to put everything into context. So I think the older you get, the more experience you have, the more some of these rich experiences resonate. Whereas if you get it in the wrong time or the wrong period of your life, they kind of fall flat. Or like I don't get it, Whereas stuff like Breaking Bad feels like accessible to even like high school level kids could find stuff to engage with on Breaking Bad.
And there are some moments that are just pure entertainment, and I feel
Sure.
like that's what like True Detective is missing.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem to me that there are moments like that.
All right, so let's talk about The Leftovers. You would be unwilling to move it above Game of Thrones, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not sure enough to fight you about it. Mad Men, I can't move it over to Leftovers.
No, I'm fine with that.
Fargo, I cannot move over Mad Men.
Yep.
Boardwalk Empire, I cannot move over Fargo.
Hell
I kind of
no.
want to.
Hell no.
But and House of Cards,
just
can
don't.
you move House of Cards over Boardwalk? You want to, don't you?
No, I don't. Honestly, what I want to do is I want to leapfrog Americans, but you're right. There are some things in Americans that just don't allow me to do that.
I mean, there's a lot of things that are just really close. Like to me, House of Cards and
Yeah.
Americans are almost indistinguishable.
Yes, this 6, 7, 8 is rough. For
They're
me.
different beasts, but they're all kind of a piece.
They are. They all felt just one like if we take the knob of greatness and we turn it down from 11 to 10, that's what those 3 shows are to me.
Yeah.
Like not quite.
I feel the
in
same way about
echelon.
True Detective and Game of Thrones. I think they're at the tippy top. Leftovers and Mad Men are at a rung below them. Then you've got, like you said, and even also
right, I think
Fargo.
our-
Also Fargo in the 3, 4, 5. That's like the notch below. And then Boardwalk, House of Cards,
Yeah.
and Americans are kind of like in their own thing. And then you've got Orange is the New Black and Silicon Valley as comedies. And it's weird because I've seen the one you have. I mean, I'd go with a coin flip
Yeah.
over which is better.
Sure, I won't argue too much on that. As long as they both make it into the list, I think we're good. The only sticking point here is 6, 7, 8 for me. Man, I got to look at some of these Boardwalk episodes one more time, because maybe I'm just not remembering it as being as excellent as it was.
I think I had a lot of guts to make Nucky be just like the way we wanted that to go down and him have this kind of heroic moment, but then like, nah, this is who he is. This is why he deserves the ending that he gets. I thought that was
Yeah, the ending of that series is great. I love the stuff they did with Capone.
oh god, Jesus, yeah.
Couldn't have done that better. Man, the killing of
Mueller,
what's his nuts Mueller. That
which
stuff
is all of a
good.
piece. Like that Capone
Yeah.
stuff is just incredibly strong.
Yeah. What did you think about Chalky and his prison escapades, getting out of prison, his journey back to New York to face Narcisse? Like, I felt like that wasn't as strong as the rest of the season.
So I'll tell you this much. I think that Chalky and Richard Harrow are my 2 favorite characters of the protagonists. I guess maybe Al Capone is a protagonist too in this weird way. But they're like 1A, 1B. I thought Richard Harrow got a outstanding end that was very poetic and beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Chalky White, not as much.
Yeah.
And like I understand why he did what he did, and it was emotional, but it also didn't make a lot of sense to throw his life away on a maybe.
Yeah. Sure. I could see that as a fault.
But I don't know that it's a fault. It just wasn't like I think the way Harrow went out was perfect.
You know, I
It's
thought they
devastating, and Chalky was, his whole plot line.
I don't think it was as interesting as the other plot lines in that series.
He didn't have one last moment of greatness, where Harrow did.
And even the moments leading up to it, I didn't feel were particularly great. You know, I thought a lot of the stuff with Nucky and getting his backstory was great.
I
I
never
thought
liked
the stuff with Capone through and through was great.
Yeah.
But just like Chalky was and is such a great character, but I don't feel like season 5 really did him justice.
I'll agree with that. And that's another thing. It's like, man, if they had 2 extra episodes where they could have really written him a nice, satisfying arc.
Yeah, and I feel like maybe they spent a little too much time with him, in the house on his way back from prison and with his
That was
you know,
great.
co-opted
To me,
partner
that was
there.
the one moment of kind of greatness that his character had. But even that said, like his performance,
It just took too long.
in the
my
final
opinion.
episode was amazing.
Yeah.
Like the amount of emotion he's able to convey with such a reserved performance.
Yeah.
I mean, when I think of it that way, it's like, what would I want? What would I have rather them do with him? And, like go out guns blazing or blow Narcisse's head off and then have his men come in and shoot him and maybe get daughter to like,
Yeah, I don't think I had, like, recalling the podcast we did on it, I don't think I had as much of a problem with the way Chalky went out and, like, him kind of doing it on a hope that...
It just, again, one of my favorite surviving characters, and what I see they did with, Richard versus what Chalky got, not as good.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and,
I
and
can
part
agree
of
with
it
that.
was like everything led up to the Richard Harrow dying. Chalky was kind of like, well, we need to wrap this up, and we still have the rest, half the season to go.
Yeah, which is the problem with, how that final season got made.
Yeah. I kind of almost wish Chalky White I would have almost rather left him on the porch looking forlorn at the end of season 4 than to have him come back in season 5 if that's what they're going to do with him.
Maybe.
But I did
Maybe.
enjoy
I mean,
his scenes, and I think that
Yeah.
with Nucky and trying to navigate that old ruptured friendship and his
Yeah.
I think the stuff
There's
he
some
did at
stuff
the
there.
end in his final episode was the finest work that Michael Williams had done on the whole damn show.
Yeah.
And jeez, he's such a good actor.
He is. The good actors all around in this. What about the stuff with Margaret and her?
Loved it. I thought Margaret and her reconciliation with Nucky at the end, and Nucky being so close to getting what he really wanted, but ultimately his sins of his past. Not a single problem.
Yeah, somewhere along the line, it felt like a misstep with her. I can't remember if this was at the very end of the previous season or at the beginning of season 5, but she set up that kind of like double cross backstab thing with the guy in the hat. I forget his fucking name. The guy who ended up dying between seasons, and we never saw him again.
Oh, AR.
Yes,
Rothstein.
Yeah, Arnold Rothstein. I don't remember that playing out super satisfactorily.
Well, there again, there's the truncated seasons.
I know.
I think we all would have liked to seen a season or two between this one and that one. It just wasn't in the cards.
Yeah.
And whether that was a creative decision, which I think is bullshit, or whether it was HBO saying, "Hey, it's been a good run, wrap it up."
But ultimately, it doesn't matter for
Doesn't
this
matter.
list, right?
No.
Like, did it hurt the season? I think so.
Sure.
I'm struggling to come up with missteps on House of Cards. Is the really scary part. There are some things I didn't like about Boardwalk Empire's season. There are some things that I really loved about it.
Well, I mean, I think there was a lot more missteps in season 1 of House of Cards than there was
Yeah.
in season 2.
Sure, I can
The
get behind
hacking,
that. Okay, all right.
like-
The hacking was not great.
that was kind of that whole subplot, and it'll be interesting to see if they make that payoff in season 3. But that's the misstep of House of Cards.
Man, I think I'm okay with this list.
All right.
I think I'm okay with that top 10. But just barely. Like House of Cards and the Americans is just
I'll tell you what, before we
Neck and
record,
neck.
how long is Silicon Valley? I would like to see that Dick episode you're talking about. Because,
all right.
and I feel like I could probably
Right.
watch that standalone and see what you're if it's that good. I kind of would like to see that because that's
Yeah. The thing is, I like going into it. If you know too much about it, it might not work.
I don't know anything about it other than
Okay.
you said it was Dicks galore.
All right. Cool.
That was a Bond girl, wasn't it? Dicks
Yeah,
galore.
yep,
All right.
Yeah.
So are we done now?
I think we're done. That's our top 10. We'll have a
We have actually a podcast where we talk about the top 10 and kind of this is the
why
only
they're in the slot they are.
Yeah, I doubt a whole lot of people are going to watch these two things, but we wanted to get we want to do a real top 10 list and have a really good podcast as a result, and this is the process. This is how we made the sausage.
Yeah. We really want you to know why we gave these spots to the shows we did.
Right. And
I
also to
think-
give you insight into why it takes to make an hour of podcast, why it takes so damn long.
Sure.
Because we're passionate people
Spent
that
multiple
bullshit.
hours on this now.
So, anything
it's
else before we're done?
No, I think that's it. Just we'll have the full podcast where we talk a little bit more about them. I'm happy with this top 10. You happy?
I'm happy.
Okay. Cool. I think that's it then.
First annual Bald Move favorite. Top
We
10.
we make no promises. No promises.
No, it's the first. I didn't say it's the first
Yeah.
ever. I shouldn't say first annual.
Okay. It is the
First ever favorite Bald Move.
Yep.
Thanks for watching.